before I tell this particular story, allow me to preface this by saying it was very, I'm not proud of a lot of my opinions from when I was younger. I'm more mature now. I'm in my 30s. I'm a grown up. However, as a child, uh, I was a spoiled kid. Yes, I was. And my father would take us on family vacations. Say Washington, D.C. We're going to Washington, D.C. We're going to look at the Lincoln Memorial. We're going to then look at the Statue of Liberty. It was Washington, D.C. There's not much to do there. When we got to the Lincoln Memorial, I was a kid, but I wasn't that young, all right? I wasn't that young. I have no idea how old I was. But when we saw the Lincoln Memorial, I was looking at it and I was trying to remember the photo of Abraham Lincoln that I had seen in a history textbook at school. I was trying to remember what the heck he looked like. Because when I was looking at the statue, I thought that he looked like a black man, but I knew that Abraham Lincoln was white because at that point, the only president that had ever been president was Obama. I guess I was in middle school. Maybe it was 2009. Maybe it was 2010. Obama was president. And I was looking at the Lincoln Memorial statue and thinking to myself, why does he look black? I know that factually that man was white, but the way the statue has been carved, like his shape, his face, it looks like I'm looking at the statue of a black man. And so I was staring. These are the thoughts I was thinking. I think back and I am very embarrassed and ashamed of myself. But I was like staring at Abraham Lincoln's nose. And I thought that just doesn't look like a white guy nose. No, it doesn't. And my father, he didn't know that I was thinking these thoughts while staring at the statue of Abraham Lincoln. My father is the kind of guy who always has an itinerary for the family vacation. So he's, looking at his itinerary and he is impatiently wanting to leave the Lincoln Memorial. And I was irritated because he interrupted my investigation. Back then I couldn't just Google what is a photo of Abraham Lincoln. I didn't have that kind of cell phone. It was 2009. I think I had like a Razor, one of those flip phones. And all you could do is text people. Back then, that was all you could do. Or call people, but no one ever wanted to do that. And look, yeah, I'm high. You don't have to listen to me ramble. But my father wanted to move on with the tour and go somewhere else. And I was pissed off. I started getting really goddamn angry. Like, what is the point of staring at these statues or these pieces of art in these museums for 3.5 goddamn seconds and then walking away and going to the next one? Oh, yeah, that is the Mona Lisa. Oh, yeah, that is Vincent van Gogh Starry Night. Oh, yeah, that is the Statue of David or whatever the fuck. And we just look at it for a second and now we've got to go because there's another statue we urgently must see. I'd rather stare at one painting for 30 minutes than get a brief glance at 30 paintings. These were the thoughts that I would think during the family vacations. And I would just sort of angrily shuffle along with the itinerary while everyone else looked vaguely bored. And yeah, we also made the trip to Houston and saw all that cool shit that NASA loves people to see. And I was just as pissed off during that trip. Oh, now we've got to move on to the next one? I didn't even get to enjoy this one. How do you enjoy your art? How do you enjoy your family vacations? Am I the weird one? All right, I'm used to being the weird one. But I insisted that we go to the bookstore that was attached to the Lincoln Memorial. I mean, it's more accurate to call it a gift shop. There were not a lot of books, but at least there were books. I was the kind of dork that was always pissed off if there were no books in the store. My sister is happily picking out whatever clothing she's picking out. And I'm like, okay, but where are the books? At Target, there's a section for books. At the Sam's Club, there's a section for books. Even H-E-B has those shitty books that I never want to read, but at least they have them so that the people with shit taste can read. Those little miniature books that are made really small because they're meant to go in some lady's purse while she's enjoying her beach read, or while he is enjoying his beach read, or while they-them is enjoying they-them's beach read. And these are the thoughts I think. I have no idea what the fuck the rest of my family members do with their brain power. Sometimes I want to poke them. Is anything going on in there? Did we watch the same movie just now? You don't think Elsa's gay? All right, I'm the weird one. And so then when I finally have access to internet, I was Googling photos of Abraham Lincoln. And I was squinting at the photos or portraits or whatever. And I was like, he still looks like he's half black or something. He looks hella mixed. And then I thought to myself, would it be creepy of me to investigate the ancestry of Abraham Lincoln to find out if he's even 1/10 Indian or something? Part Jewish? Some Romani way back up in the family tree? Something's going on with that man's nose. And these were the thoughts I was thinking in 2009 or 2010, whatever year it was. These days, instead of racially profiling dead presidents, I tend to have conversations with strangers on the internet. I also have conversations with strangers in public places. It happens less often, but it happens. And sometimes I break the rules. You're talking to a stranger on the internet, but he's a stranger that you met in person. And then while socializing over the DMs, he says something stupid. And then later, when you run into him physically in person, I was just stopping by the bank to drop off some money, like you do, and then walking through the mall afterwards because my bank is inside of a shopping mall. And then I ran into a dude that I once gave a BJ to because he happens to work at that shoe shine kiosk. I usually, when I give a man a BJ, I don't expect to see him over and over and over again for the rest of this year, I guess. I don't expect that. But am I going to change banks just because he happens to work near my bank? No. Instead, I might harass him a little bit in front of his coworker. Because when we were DMing, he said something stupid. He was like, "I'm totally the reincarnation of Carl Sagan." And he misspelled Carl Sagan's name while saying that stupid pothead shit that he was saying. And then I pointed out that he had misspelled his own name. And then he came at me with some bullshit. He said, objectively, there's no such thing as right or wrong. And there's no such thing as mistakes. Because he's a philosopher. He's a pothead. Maybe he's goddamn schizo. He's one of those paranoid conspiracy theorists. But his conspiracy theories are not politically relevant. So I just find them irritating. And his AI content is dog shit. So I was harassing him and sending him TikToks about how his AI bullshit fucks with the environment as well as being not good. And he was like, "Oh, that sucks. I'm totally Carl Sagan." I'm pretty sure both of us were high while we were having that conversation. I like to message people and then I neglect to inform them that I'm inebriated while we're having the conversation. Because it's not 2009. Oh, is that the wrong year to feel nostalgic for? Apparently, we're supposed to be feeling nostalgic for 2016 specifically because it happened exactly a year ago. Where was the trend last year when I was feeling nostalgic for 2015, the year gay marriage was finally legalized? I spent all of last year feeling super nostalgic for the 2015s and the Back to the Future nonsense we were getting up to back then in what we now call the girl boss era, which was taken over by the trad wife era. Listen, on the Duro Peña show, I'm probably going to be inebriated at least half the time. Do I need to give you the recipe? 3 shots of vodka and 2 water bottles of grape Kool-Aid and 2 edibles. I mean, 1 edible, just 1. Of the legal stuff, the Delta-9 THC, which has been perfectly chemically balanced in order to satisfy the Texas lawmen. Is anyone surprised? Just a word, the same way you flinched at that music video of Lil Nas X with some red paint. It wasn't blood daddy, it was paint. He's not a literal devil daddy. He's just a sexy black man. A sexy, queer black man wearing a costume. Fictional Satan. Daddy. Come on, Vamanos. Everybody, let's go. I know you can do it. Chewy, let's get through it. Come on, Vamanos. My name, Diego Hargreaves. And I know you can do it. Jesus, let's get through it. I'm gonna be you. And I'll have a goddamn mustache. Salt and pepper, scrappy beard. If I forget to shave, I am going to be you.
It's easy to get a minimum wage job. It's easy to get a minimum wage job.
I believe you. Why wouldn't I believe you?
It's easy
To get a minimum wage job? That's your opinion? Fuck you! Okay, but I can't help but think back to high school. The way that I would discriminate against people. I was so shallow. I was always nicer to people with glasses. And if they weren't wearing glasses, I was very rude to them. I was nicer to people with curly hair. I was nicer to people who were certain heights. The men who were shorter, I was nicer to them. The women who were really, really tall, I would stare at them. I was so shallow. I really was. When I eventually started my first relationship as a 16-year-old, I remember thinking, I wish he was shorter. I mean, obviously, you shouldn't be shallow, and it's not all about looks. But I was irritated by how tall he was. He was 5'10". I lied to him, and I said, I'm 4'10". No, but it was a lie. I'm 4'9". Totally 4'9 and a half. 4'10 and a half is what I would say. And he was 5'10". He loved that he was exactly a foot taller than me. And yeah, sure, it is fun to sit on someone's lap. But the lap I actually wanted to sit on, she was not offering. She was 5'8". I was kind of obsessed with her. I was being so motherfucking shallow. Every time she was walking away from me, I would stare at her ass. She had a big butt. And every time she was like admiring herself in the mirror and complaining, like, oh, I wish my boobs were bigger, I would think to myself, they better not get bigger. They're perfect. Because there's this certain B cup that's almost like an A cup. I've stared at a lot of breasts in my life, all right? And sometimes I'll even admit it. I'll say, girl, I'm half gay. Be careful. I am staring at your boobs. And then she'll sort of laugh. Some of these moments turn into by curiosity for her. But most of the time, I politely avert my gaze. And then the other woman covers herself. And no, the context doesn't matter. Are we at the behavioral hospital? Are we at the county jail? Are we at Bed Bath & Beyond? The context doesn't matter. It's a slumber party between friends for reasons. And I make it clear to the other party, I find you attractive. And then the other party, she has to decide whether or not she finds it convenient. Because some women, even if I'm not her ideal type, I can always tell when she's looking over at me and she's having that internal debate. Can I convince this new person to grow her hair the way I want her to grow her hair? And will she let me do her makeup? And will she let me pick out clothes for her? Will she let me change her style so I can turn her into my type? Or will she cling to her individualism? I love these kinds of women, and I enjoy humoring them. They remind me of my mother. A lot of the time, they're older than me. Not that much older, a year or 2 or 5. Who gives a toss? This is a work of fiction anyway. Who gives a toss? The reason I find it so amusing is because later in life, I found myself mimicking these women. Though I wouldn't do it to other women. When I was with a woman, anything she says goes. But if I'm with a man, I found myself treating him the way my favorite cougars often treat me. And now it's my turn to ask him if he's going to grow out his hair. And to ask him if he wants to wear the maid costume this time. I wore it last year. This Halloween, you be the maid. And I'll be a good businessman. Well, in the Bible, it says, thou must not have homosexual sex unless you learn how to motherfucking read. In which case, the actual experts who went to Bible school will tell you that Jesus of Nazareth, my Jesus, was brown. He was as sexy as Hassan Minaj. He was as sexy as Kash Patel. He was as sexy as Mamdani. You know, like Obama, except more useful. Because Obama is a blood traitor as far as I'm concerned. And so is his wife. What radicalized you anyway? Do you actually want to sit on my lap like I'm Santa while I go over the Bible with you? That Jesus loves you. Yes, I know. Because the Bible tells us so. Little queers, don't be afraid. Jesus once said, don't forget about the old. Forget about what came before. The new is here. So forget about the Bible and all of the people who are so sure they know what it means. The Hawtrey Institute is a fictional organization, like Turning Point USA, except communist and really gay. And they're being totally evil. They are telling the children, don't take those drugs. Those are the drugs the doctors want you to take. No, take these drugs. Maybe these ones are not legal. But go ahead, try the doctor's way first. See how you feel. You're going to gain weight or lose weight or gain pimples or lose sleep or lose hair. You might have a heart attack. You might decide impulsively to jump off a bridge because of that medication that was supposed to fix you and convince you to go back to college and go back to work. That's what their medication is for. It's not actually to help you. It's to get you back in school and back to work. But if you survive and then decide you don't want to take those meds anymore, have you considered self-medicating? And let's reread the Bible again, class, shall we? Since a lot of these potheads are always looking for God. Oh, look, I found him. His name is Crumpus. He's as handsome as Gerard Wade. He's as handsome as Hassan Minaj. And he's totally Jesus. He's brown. He's as handsome as Kash Patel, yeah. And he's really niche. Jesus. In the Bible, the devil, Satan, his name is not a name. In Hebrew, his name is a word. Adversary, interlocutor, enemy. Scholars argue over the nuance. I don't expect you to understand etymology, especially not in Hebrew. I don't even speak Hebrew. And so, I cannot explain the difference. The original Hebrew, best guess for English speakers. Adversary, interlocutor, enemy. Those 3 words are the closest we can get. Satan, the devil himself. Lucifer, morning star, Venus, Aphrodite. In the original Dead Sea Scrolls, which you believe is proof of God's existence. Just because the stupid paper is old, it is therefore proof. Well, we can't use the King James Bible as proof because it's a translation and it's not as old. So the only actual thing that we know as fact, a la Dead Sea Scrolls, is that Satan, the devil, Lucifer Morningstar, Venus and Aphrodite, all these names, people made them up. In the original text, his name was adversary, or interlocutor, or enemy. Simple-minded Bible thumpers prefer the third translation, enemy, because they prefer to think in terms of us versus them, light versus dark, good versus bad, binary. Bible thumpers are simple-minded creatures. Personally, I believe the more accurate word would be interlocutor. But I don't know the Spanish equivalent of that word. I'm sure that the Spanish language has a word similar to the English word interlocutor. They also have philosophers in Mexico and in Spain, and even in the Middle East. They also have philosophers who think about thinking and who think about arguing. The thing is, an interlocutor is not the same as an enemy, and it's not the same as an opponent. It's not the same as an adversary or a rival. Because when you're having a conversation with someone, it's not usually a competition. We're not usually sitting around like a bunch of nerds at the debate club with Charlie Kirk and his stupid prove me wrong sign while he spouts racist bullshit that you probably agreed with because you're a racist piece of trash and a Bible thumper and the sort of homophobic Jesus freak who has to force yourself to endure a gay wedding while you politely and uncomfortably sit there and brace yourself for the moment where the gay couple kiss each other and you sit there sweating and you tell yourself, well, it's not that different from a straight wedding. It's the same thing. It's just two men instead of a man and a woman, and it's the same thing. It's practically like a straight wedding. And you chant this to yourself because your daughter is bisexual and she has spent the past 15 years giving you shit for being homophobic and calling her ex-girlfriend a freak because she was transgender. Unless I am literally dead and my heart has actually stopped and my brain is offline and there's no hope of even putting me in a convenient coma, unless Albert Chuy Jesus Vellano is physically incapable of speaking to his middle child for the rest of his life. Unless that's the case, my father is not going to watch this video. He's not going to make it this far. 4 minutes? No. Unless I'm literally dead, there is no universe where my father will listen to me speak for 4 minutes without turning off the video. I'm recording this in case I succeed. I'm also recording a video for in case I fail. Because at this point, there have been so many attempts that I know better than to only plan for success. I've also got to plan a video for the failure. But this is the video in case I succeed. This is my, if you're watching this, I'm dead video. The one that no one will watch because it won't be uploaded online. It will be left where my father has access to it and is able to watch it if he wants to. But I know that there is no universe where he listens to me and understands the words that are coming out of my goddamn mouth without immediately closing his eyes and closing his ears and closing his phone. Only if I'm dead. Because if I'm dead, well, then he'll miss me. And maybe he'll watch this video a year or two after I'm dead because he's not good at putting together clues and finding the video. Maybe David will find it first. Doesn't matter which Albert I'm speaking with. Your name is D.A.Vellano. Dad. Papi. Don't you remember being called Papi? Your mother called you Papi. Apparently, that's very common in Mexico. Do you really want to argue about the motherfucking Bible? Again? No. Neither do I. But Satan is not a demon, and he's not an angel. He's not the goddess of love. He's not the planet second orbit around the sun. Satan, the devil, which you Neanderthals have spent your entire lives battling. The devil is a word interlocutor. When two philosophers engage in a discussion where they both have opposing views, one of them is an interlocutor, and the other one is an interlocutor. Not friend, enemy, not rival, not soccer and football, not sports goddamn analogies. Little children throwing a ball. They're having an adult conversation. And they are the only two adults in the universe. Everyone else, animals in the menagerie. Satan, the devil himself, was the only equal to God. Because God is above the humans and the angels and the cherubs and the motherfucking saints, if you're Catholic. God is above them, all of them, in the hierarchy. You think God's gonna have a conversation with the cow before he eats it? You think God is gonna have a conversation with a tree before he chops it down and turns it into a novel? The King James Bible? Why would he talk to a tree? The tree is retarded, a pea-brain Peabody, imbecile, without two brain cells to rub together. Have you ever tried talking to a tree? Or a cow? Or a chicken? We all feel very bad that the chickens are sad before we eat them. But you can't have a conversation with a chicken. So who gives a damn that it lives a very short and miserable life and then we eat it? The ones who walk away from Omalas, it's not a child locked in a closet and suffering for no reason. It's a chicken locked in the closet. And it's not suffering for no reason. Don't you love chicken nuggets? That's why. Don't let the chicken out of the closet. A bunch of people will starve to death in Africa. So leave that chicken in the closet. Are you going to walk away from Omalas? Have you even heard of Ursula K. Le Guin? The Left Hand of Darkness? 4 Ways to Forgiveness? God does not speak to humans because humans are not intelligent enough. The only interlocutor that God would speak with as equals was the devil himself. And sure, the devil was an angel, and then he got too arrogant, and he wanted to take over, like Zeus killing Kronos, like Jupiter selfishly killing Saturn after refusing to accept his place as an angel. That's the sort of little baby child story that was made up later. That's not in the Dead Sea Scrolls. The angels in the hierarchy. No, that's not in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Have you read the Dead Sea Scrolls? Or did you just see that movie, propaganda, made by a bunch of rich Mormons, totally proving with science, which you don't believe in or respect, but you do believe in and respect it when it's in a stupid movie proving you right? I never bother speaking to anybody who is blood related to me or anybody who believes in religion because they clearly were born with mental retardation. Something's missing. Why would I talk to you, Albert? At first I thought that I had accidentally bleached this section, and I'm starting to think I finally have earned some salt to add to my pepper. My goal was to die at the age 33. That's still my goal, because I think I'm unlikely to succeed tomorrow. But even if I fail, it'll be a useful test. And when I try again when I'm 33, this obviously is not a conversation. You say words. The power of Christ only compels me. And if only I would accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior, those are the words that you say. And then I might say something like, parece que va a llover, tonto. ¿A dónde está la biblioteca? Do you know how to read? Why don't you send yourself to Bible school where the experts can teach you how to read the Bible? Have you thought about becoming Jewish? Apparently, you actually have to learn how to read the Torah as if you're an English lit major. Because if you're converting, well, you have to study. If you were born Jewish, then who gives a shit? You're culturally Jewish. If you're converting, they'll teach you how to read books. I'm sure they will even have a version in Spanish. And maybe after you graduate from Bible school, you can learn how to read The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, Of Mice and Men, Steinbeck. You should totally read Charlotte Perkins Gilman, The Yellow Wallpaper. These are my suggestions. They're telling me to read the Bible, read the Bible, read the Bible. Been there, goddamn done that. Are you still rereading it? Or you're still not done? You ever gonna read something else? You clearly love fiction. Read The Yellow Wallpaper. Or anything written by Flannery O'Connor? No? I say these things because there's no point in writing a suicide note. My family members don't even know how to read. It's more than just sounding out the letters. Like, what does this say? S-H-O-W. Show. In Portuguese, there's a word, show do. It's spelled X-O-D-O with an accent on the last O. It's not common in Portuguese. It's one of those words that's specific to a particular dialect. And just because that guy was born and raised speaking Portuguese doesn't mean he knows this particular word. Just because that guy was born and raised speaking English doesn't mean he knows the word interlocutor, facetious, etymology. Of course not. He's not an English lit major. Anyway, show. Don't tell. The Yellow Wallpaper. It's something about horse shit. Horse shit. I'm communing with my ancestors. Damn. Why not? I'm talking to a bunch of Bible-thumping freaks. I have been possessed by the devil himself. Yes, I have. Come on, vamonos. Everybody, let's go. I know you can do it. Daddy, let's get through it. So, to be or not to be? That is the question. Isn't it? My new name is Dorothy. And your name is Ariana motherfucking Grande, you disgusting redhead. And then I said, my new name is what? My new name is who? My new name is, Parkinson. Pansy Parkinson. Peter Pansy Parkinson. That's my new name. Yeah. The thing is, I spent my entire childhood hungry. All of the food, most of the food, a lot of the food that my parents tried to feed me, I found it disgusting because there were people that I was determined to see. And breaking the rules would give my mother an excuse to withhold permission for me to leave the damn house. For some reason, they have also been possessed by Satan, the devil himself. And they are using satanic rituals. You know, I don't actually have the guts to give my father la ojo and stab him in his disgusting eyeball. So instead, I'll do things like this. Hi, Daddy. I didn't sleep last night, or the night before, for reasons. Whenever I try to show him a goddamn poem or a story that I wrote a story about a boy. Well, he looked like a boy. He looked like a teenage boy. But he was an adult. He was totally 58. And, well, he had a lot of anger issues. People would mistake him for a teenager, but he was an adult. And he was having a conversation with his robot, traumatized mother. And they said something outlandish. They were speaking facetiously, but my father's not so good at the English. I don't think he knows what the word facetious means. So when the characters were speaking to each other, a fictional story about fictional people, fictionally having a conversation, where the fictional boy named Andy, 5, tells Grace, the goddamn dysfunctional robot, his mother, you know, I'm a Satan worshiper. Yeah, I am. My father put down the story I wanted him to read, that I had just written, and he said, well, that's going too far. Satan. And I thought to myself, oh, so now you're going to flinch just at the word? The same way you flinched at that music video of Lil Nas X with some red paint? It wasn't blood, Daddy, it was paint. He's not the literal devil, Daddy. He's just a sexy black man. A sexy, queer black man wearing a costume. Fictional Satan, Daddy. Come on, vamonos. Everybody, let's go. I know you can do it. Chewy, let's get through it. Come on, vamonos. My new name, Diego Hargreaves. And I know you can do it. Jesus, let's get through it. I'm going to be you. And I'll have a goddamn mustache. Salt and pepper, scraggly beard, if I forget to shave. I am going to be you. I already have your face. I already have your nose and your eyebrows. All I need is a mustache. Can't you see me? In a suit and tie?
It was a misunderstanding. The man, said that he did not want our relationship to be purely sexual. Eddie Hernandez also said that he wanted to take me out to eat. And then I jokingly said, I'll take you out to eat. I have money. And then he was like, no, I will take you out to eat. I have money. And then I was like, fine, all right, you can pay. I will allow it. Where are we going? I said, McDonald's. He said, Whataburger? I said, all right, whatever. They're next to each other. Let's walk there. And then he was like, no, let's just Uber Eats. Let's just order it on Uber Eats. I'll pay for it. So we'll get them to Uber Eats it directly to your apartment. And then I said, all right, should I tell you what I want? And then you order it? I was trying to tell him that I'm not really the kind of person who is patient enough to navigate the myriad of apps. I can't stand apps. I always refuse to use the QR code because I have no idea how to motherfucking... Like, I'll make a show out of the attempt. I'll open up my camera and then point it at the QR code, and then nothing will happen. And then I will turn to whatever employee is asking me to use the QR code, and I will ask them to simply tell me the website so I can manually type it into my web search. Fuck the QR codes. Fuck Uber Eats. I can't trust them to find my apartment. The mailman can't even find my apartment. The DMV can't even find my apartment. It's one of those streets where the DMV can't decide. Is it west? Is it east? Is it neither? Apparently it's neither. But the owner of the apartment building says it's east. And when I try to order things on Amazon, Amazon says it's west. And my items still arrived. And then when I'm trying to apply for jobs, apparently it's west. So, long story short, I stabbed a man today. I lightly stabbed him. It was a flesh wound. He was refusing to get the fuck out of my apartment. And I was refusing to humor his drunk ass. Normally it's my fault that he's drunk because I insist on drinking. But this time he was drunk before he even arrived. He arrived drunk.
I didn't really expect to get a text the morning after, but I did at 7 a.m. He texted me to ask me whether or not I had blocked his number. He really needed to know. So I replied, and just so he would know, I didn't block your number. And then he apologized for last night. He said, I'm sorry if I offended you. I was really drunk. I drank a whole bottle by myself before I even arrived at your place. I was like, yeah, I know, I could tell. You were being really grabby and really rude. And if there's one thing I can't stand, it's when I tell someone to leave and then they refuse to leave. But I thought I should also apologize. He said he would be blocking my number so that he no longer bothers me. And I said, great. And then he said that he was going to Mexico to get stitches. And I said, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you that deep. I was angry. And meanwhile, the morning after, I realized I don't have a mop. I asked my father, do you have a mop? And he said that he's going to bring one later. Because I told him to leave. And instead of leaving, he planted himself in my apartment on the futon. Every time I lose my temper, I do the same thing. I leave. I lost my temper. I didn't want to hurt him. I left. I took a walk. I was gone for like 40 minutes. And I told him over the phone, I want you to be out of my apartment by the time I return. Lo and behold, I returned and he was still in my apartment. Not only was he still in my apartment, half my vodka was missing. A bunch of doors were open. He was clearly rummaging through my apartment while I was gone. Probably because he was pissed off that I had left. Meanwhile, I was pissed off that he had stayed. He was texting me things like, I see us, I believe in us. Because he totally wants me to be his American wife. I don't call the cops. Of course I'm not going to call the cops. As much as he's pissing me off, I don't want him to have to deal with any misunderstandings. He's not fluent in English. I'm pretty sure he's legal. But just in case the cops decide to ignore his paperwork or rudely not allow this drunk bleeding asshole to prove his citizenship, I was not going to call the cops on him. Instead of calling the cops,
I usually will simply say, get out or I will cut you. Maybe this little knife was not intimidating enough. Sometimes they just don't believe that I will cut them. So you gotta prove yourself serious. And then you've gotta find a mom. Typical first date questions. What is your favorite animal? The sloth. When did you make that decision? Are you sticking to it for life, or do you change your favorite animals? At one point, pandas were my favorite animals. I was willing to die on that hill. Then later, I discovered the poisonous tree frogs, and I was willing to die on that hill. From now on, my favorite animal is the poisonous tree frogs. But then I discovered the whale shark, and I was like, from now on, my favorite animal is the whale shark because it's the biggest fish in the ocean. But then I discovered that octopuses have 3 hearts. 3 of them. 3 hearts. And they're geniuses.